Hello everyone and welcome to my guide on the Chambers of Xeric. In this particular guide, we're going to be going over how to scout your first raid and what a good and bad scout looks like. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. So the first thing I really wanted to talk about was why we actually need to scout or look for a good raid in the first place. And the reason for this is because when you go into the Chambers of Xeric, you're going to be presented with a combination of combat rooms with bosses in them, puzzle rooms with various puzzles and challenges you need to solve, the resource rooms where you will kill scavengers and collect their resources, and then farming rooms where you will prep your potions to fight the Great Olm, the boss at the end of the raid. So whenever you go into a raid, it's going to pick from one of two rotations. This basically specifies the bosses that are going to be in the raid and the puzzles that are going to be in the raid. And the raid layout can really have 3 to 5 of these bosses, either going in a clockwise or counterclockwise direction. So for instance, if you go into the raid and it chooses rotation number 1 and it chooses Vespula and it's moving in a clockwise direction, then you could potentially get Vespula, Tecton, and Vasa, or Vespula, Tecton, Vasa, Guardians, and Skeletal Mystics, or just Vespula, Tecton, Vasa, or Guardians. And the same goes for rotation 2, picking Skeletal Mystics and going in a counterclockwise direction, where you would get Mystics, Vanguards, Vasa, and Shamans. So we can do any type of raid that we want when we go into the Chambers of Xeric. However, there are certain or particular raids that we're looking for that are going to be a lot more beneficial to us in the long run. Not only because some of the bosses are significantly easier to kill than others, and some of the bosses are worth more points than others, which can yield better results when it comes to unique loot, but also because when it comes to speed running and getting through raids quickly and doing as many as you can per hour, and even going for those Grandmaster Chambers of Xeric combat tasks, getting the right raid or the right scout can be absolutely essential in ensuring your success. So the first thing that you really need before you can start scouting for raids is Runelite, because there is a plugin, the Chambers of Xeric plugin. It comes directly with the client, so you don't have to go to the plugin hub. Make sure you have it enabled, because when you go into the raid, it'll actually attempt to figure out what the rest of the layout is, what the rotation is, and identify all of the different bosses within the raid, even though you can't see them from the starting room where you first spawn in within the raid. It also allows you to whitelist and blacklist certain rooms to make it easy to identify if the raid is a good raid or one that you want, or one that contains some bosses that you're just not looking to fight. So for your whitelisted rooms, you should absolutely have Guardians, Tightrope, Crabs, Tecton, Mystics, and Matadals. Guardians because they're super fast and easy, Tightrope because it's actually better points per hour than Ulm itself, Crabs because it's the fastest puzzle room to solve once you learn it and get it down, Tecton and Matadals because they drop overloads, saving you from having to craft them yourself with 90 herb lore, and Mystics because it's fast, easy, and they drop seeds. For blacklist, I'd recommend always blacklisting unknown rooms. We definitely don't want to do those. Vespula, Vanguards, and Vasa, because these rooms can be tricky for new people learning to raids, and generally in my experience with raiding, it's harder to find teams and parties when you have a raid with Vespula, Vanguards, or Vasa in it. That being said, there is a caveat to that, and that is once you learn how to raid better, Vespula actually becomes one of the fastest rooms that you can do. So although it is challenging and there is a steeper learning curve to it, it gets better over time. And so high level raiders will actually seek out specific raids with Vespula in it. So make sure that you refine your blacklisted rooms over time based on your skill level and experience when raiding. So to actually scout a raid, you're going to need to be in a friends chat. So go ahead and click on your friends chat icon, click join, type in your name, and come to this little billboard here. Once you're at the billboard, you can open it up and click make party. Now you've created a raiding party with just yourself in it, so you can go ahead and enter the Chambers of Xeric now. Once you actually go through the raid, this is the portion when it's going to automatically generate a scout for you. So you're going to be wanting to look in the top left-hand corner to see exactly what that scout is. So during your scouting process, it's quite likely that you're not going to find a perfect raid the first time that you enter. So in this clip here, we show that we've created a party, we enter into the Chambers of Xeric, we check in the top left-hand corner to see if it's a raid we want to do, and in this case we don't. So we're going to go ahead and leave, go back to the billboard, create a new party, and then start again. Now it is worth mentioning that if you are the only person within that raid and you're the only person in your friends chat, if you leave the raid, it will be gone and it will be lost. So make sure you have a friend in your friends chat who is ranked, who is also in the raid at the same time, to ensure that it's actually being held for everybody while everyone is gearing up. So now I'm going to talk about what actually comprises a quote-unquote good raid. Well, first and foremost, there are some general scouting rules that apply. And that is, combat rooms actually don't matter as much as puzzle rooms. Your raid should always contain at least 3 combat rooms and 2 puzzle rooms, or 4 combat rooms and 1 puzzle room. This is abbreviated 3C2P or 4C1P for short. And this just ensures that we have the minimum amount of rooms that are available in a viable raid, so that we can get through the raid as quickly as possible. We should always be scouting for the tightrope puzzle. And the reason for this is because tightrope actually has better points per hour than Ulm itself. So it's free, easy points, which boosts your chance at a purple. We should always be avoiding unknown puzzle rooms when possible. And this is just because unknown rooms can be rooms that we definitely don't want in the raid. So if we can have the full raid scouted for us and know exactly what we're getting into before we start, that's always the best case scenario. And finally finding a 3C or 3 combat room with the crabs plus the tightrope raid is ideal. So this is like the best raid that you can get, a 3 combat room with 3 of your whitelisted bosses on it, along with the crabs and tightrope. This is going to be the awesome, perfect raid that you could either sell or do yourself. So when Runelite gives us this scouting overlay, what on earth does the FSCC, SP, CP, SF, or FSCP, what on earth does that even mean? Well, it's actually really simple once you figure it out. So the C actually stands for a combat or boss room, the P's stand for puzzle rooms, the F stands for farming rooms, and the S stands for scav or scavenger rooms. So basically it's telling you the order in which rooms are going to occur in the raid, along with the actual rooms themselves in the raid. So in this particular raid, the first room that we're going to go into after this entry room is going to be a farming room, and it's going to give us an opportunity to farm seeds and create potions and stuff like that. The next room is going to be a scavenger room where we can kill the scavengers to gain resources to make these potions. And then we're going to have 2 back-to-back combat rooms, those being Mystics and Tecton, followed by another scav and then a puzzle room, that being Tightrope. So it goes on and on like this, but this is a helpful way to identify mostly where is the last time that I'm going to see scavengers in the raid, so that I can make sure that I kill them then and get my supplies before I go to the last farming, and so on and so forth. So it just basically tells you the order in which things are coming in the raid. Alright, so there's one last thing that I wanted to do before we wrap up this video, and that is give you guys a little quiz on various scouts for the Chambers of Xeric, so that you can test your newfound knowledge of what you've learned in this video. And so you might be asking yourself, well, am I really about to take a quiz on YouTube for a 16-year-old point-and-click MMORPG? And the answer is yes, because this is absolutely how you get better and how you can identify the difference between good and bad raids. This is an awesome chance to test your knowledge. So really just try to label the raid as either a good one that you'd want to do and want to share with your clanmates or the We Do Raids Discord, or a bad raid which you would want to skip and look for a better version of. And after we're done with all of this, I'll go ahead and talk through the reasons why I think the raid was either good or bad, so that you can either check your work or, you know, learn something new if you got it wrong. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is actually a bad raid because it is a 4C 2P, which means there's one extra puzzle in there that we don't want, and that puzzle actually happens to be unknown. So although we have Mystics, Tightropes, and Guardians, we've also got Vasa and an unknown puzzle in there, which makes it a not really ideal raid to be going on. This raid is classified as a bad raid because it is a 4C 2P as well. One of the puzzles is also unknown, and we have Vasa as one of the bosses here, which can be a little bit more challenging for new players to get their head around, although this might be a potential raid in the future if it didn't have that unknown puzzle. This is classified as a bad raid because we have two unknowns, I'm sorry, just one unknown here, but we also have a Vespula on the combat. So this might be a good raid for a more experienced raider, but it's also a 4C2P, which really isn't ideal for us. We definitely don't want to see that unknown puzzle there. So this is classified as a good raid because it is a 3C2P, meaning 3 combats and 2 puzzles. And although we do have Vasa as one of the combats, it's probably not enough to say like this is a bad raid. So this is definitely a raid that I would go on and post to the We Do Raids Discord. We've got Tecton in there as well to get our overloads, and we've got a Tightrope and Crabs, so great raid. This is classified as a bad raid because we have Vanguards as the combat, which really isn't ideal, and Ice Demon is a super slow puzzle room, so it's definitely not the best puzzle room to have. Although it is 3C2B, it may be a viable raid for you. You might have to make it a call on this. This is an okay raid. I would classify it as bad personally, though. So this is a good raid, and although it does have Vasa in that, which it can be a little bit tricky for newer players, it is a 3C2P with a Tightrope in it, and we've got Tecton to supply us with the overloads. Thieving's a little bit slower, but Guardians is a great and easy combat room, so this is definitely a raid I would go on. This is obviously classified as a bad raid. This is a pretty easy one. We've got 3 unknown combats in here, and although it is a 4C1P with a Tightrope and Mudadials to supply us with the overloads, the combats are all unknown, so we really have no idea what we're getting into with this raid. So this is classified as a bad raid as well. We have a 4C2P. Again, that's not ideal, and one of the combats is also Vespula, which can be trickier for new players. Again, Vespula can be a really fast room for experienced teams, but you can die really easy in it with the redemption method. So I would not go on this raid. And this is classified as a good raid. So we have a 3C2P with Mudadials to supply us with our overloads and the Tightrope puzzle for a ton of points. There is nothing wrong with this raid, and I would definitely see myself going on it. So this last one here is a bit tricky, and I would technically classify this as a bad raid. It is a 4C2P, which is a little bit longer than what we would like to see, that being a 3C2P or a 4C1P, and it's got an unknown puzzle room in it. So on the plus side, it does have Mudadials and Tecton, which means we'll have plenty of overloads that we need, and we won't have to create those in the raid itself. And it's got the Tightrope in it as well, which is great for points. Mystics and Guardians are just easy rooms in general. But overall, because of the fact that it's 4C2P and we've got an unknown puzzle, I would personally keep scouting for a 3C2P raid. Well, that is really all that I have to share to everyone about how to scout raids in the Chambers of Xeric. If you learned something, that is awesome. I'm so glad to hear it, and hopefully you got most of those raid scouting overlay questions right. So I look forward to seeing you in the Chambers of Xeric, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you learned something or enjoyed this video. Thank you so much, and
on the fake shit, I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant, I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit. A stupid myth, you choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.